we have to understand is about that why did Gandhi call of the non-cooperation protest? What was the reason? How it had been happening? So Gandhi campaign accused considerable enthusiasm. He burnt foreign cloth and he said, "Can that we are not gonna wear the cloth which is being brought to India, whereas the Indians are going to wear the homespun Indian cloth." But the crowds and demonstrations got out of hand. So in February 1922, a riot that was Chori Chora resulted in the murder of 22 policemen. Just look at them, they killed those. So what happened after that? That Gandhi was the applaud. So he was, because they were listening to him, so he was happy that they are being, they're cued, they have been given voice. Whatever he was saying was understood and taken care of. So immediately he gave orders for the killing off of the protests. Before they could continue, he said an atmosphere of peace had to be re-established. So he started, establishing peace. He said, no, we are not going to kill anybody anymore, because they were killing the policemen over there. And this was leading to a bloodshed. Like already in Amritsar, the same thing had already, taken place. So they were all upset with that. So this is what I was telling you, that how it started. So in March 1922, Gandhi was arrested. He was accused of fomenting hatred or contempt and of attempts to bring about disloyalty to His Majesty government in India. They said that he's the guy, he's the person who had been, promoting the hatred against the government of Britons over there in India. So they started talking against him. So government finally said that just arrest him, because he's behind all these murders. He's behind those all sit-ups and all that, and the riots which were taking place. So, kept keeping this thing in my mind, Gandhi stood firm in his beliefs and challenged the judge to send him to prison. He said, "Fine, whatever the way you wish, whatever you say, I have no worry about it. Just send me to jail if you want. If you think that I'm wrong, though, I'm okay to go with whatever the way you want the punishment to go." So Gandhi stood from his beliefs and then challenged for the imprisonment. The judge told him that by his own acts he had made it impossible for any government which tried to govern to leave him at liberty to organize against them. He was sentenced to 6 years of imprisonment, but serious illness led to his unconditional release after 2 years. So, you know what happened, that basically because he was against the government, and it would have been happening actually anywhere, wherever, in whichever country, wherever you speak about, if somebody is talking against government, spreading hatred, and the people from the government authorities are not wrong, and they are creating, somebody is creating first, so they are to be jailed or imprisoned. But in this case, it was not the true reality. He was, although punished, and imprisonment was laid, but still, whatever the punishment was there. But in that way, what happened, that Gandhi was quite lean and weak already, so he fell sick in the prison, and right after 2 years instead of six, he was released. Now, the question comes, how did the non cooperation movement and the Khilafat movement come to an end? What happened? What were the reason that both the movements then were laid to rest? A number of events undermined Gandhi's policy of non-violence, Hindu-Muslim unity, and the Khilafat campaign. So Mr. Jinnah fears came true. Now Mr. Jinnah was very intelligent person. He knew that what is happening. He could understand all these aspects. So whatever his fears were, they were coming to truth. They were the reality. Now another tehreek during that movement was the Tehreek-e-Hijrat, and it was called Hijrat movement in August 1920. Like you can see that now we are sitting in end of 2022 towards 2023. So many years back, if you see straight, you can see that approximately 13-14 years back, about 18,000 Muslims sold their homes and farms, packed up their possessions, and tried to migrate to Afghanistan. That was the fear factor. That was the, unrest which led to take them this decision. This hijrat, which means migration, like people move from one place to another, reminded them of the journey of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from Makkah to Medina. Then Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad and Maulana Abdul Bari had told them that a true Muslim had to leave Darul Harb, that is the land under foreign rule. This is the British controlled India at that time, and live in an Islamic state. But Afghanistan did not want them. Afghanistan said, no, we are not going to let you live over here. Whereas, as of now, but if you see, so a few years back, only Pakistan gave a lot of you know you can say that they let the Afghani people stay in Pakistan, but at that time the Muslims were not allowed to stay in Afghanistan. They were forced to return to their villages, disappointed and penniless. They were disappointed. There was a lot of obviously stress, and they were so sad that they had, because they had even no money even they had. So they were disappointed. Some died along the way. When they got back, they were unable to buy back the homes and land they had sold. Now, poor these people, they bought, sold out their houses, and they wanted to take refuge in Afghanistan. But look at Afghanistan, such a bad, role they played, that they didn't even let them stay here with kids, with women, with small little babies. They had been moving, but they didn't let. And then when they came back, they were left with nothing. The Hijrat movement was a tragedy. So that is why whenever we recall the history, whatever we see that the Hijrat movement was a complete tragedy in its own itself. Now, the Molf uprising in Malabar against 1921. Now, there is another thing which has started happening. A violent uprising of by the deeply religious Muslim peasants in South Asia led to the death of few thousands of the Hindus. The Muslim peasants in South Asia, as anger was directed against Hindu landowners as well as the British. Now, particularly, these were those who sold their houses to them at that time. They sold at very cheap rates, but now when they came back, they begged them that take the money back, or at least give us some time, but give us our place. But they didn't. So there was a bloodshed which started. There were fights going on, and all that kind of the thing started off at Tirur. Nearly 10,000 mobs destroyed the police stations and seized arms and ammunition. Now, again the same fight, again the same rule started off. They were fighting for their rights. They wanted their things back. So they even started interacting, going against the troops of Britishers, even the police which was there. So Hindu property was destroyed, including temples. In the end, British troops suppressed this uprising. More than 4,000 mobs were killed and many more wounded, whilst the British suffered fewer than 100 casualties. But the violence divided Muslims and Hindus. So now this was the time period where the hatred took up to that level where they both were divided, the Muslims and the Hindus. Then what happened? Other Hindu Muslim riots followed. Some Hindu groups who were strongly against cooperation with Muslims set about converting people and encouraging them to defend themselves. The Hindu dominated Congress failed to condemn these activities. Gandhi was arrested and given a 6-year prison sentence for inciting protest and demonstrations. At Chauri Chaura, the murder of 22 policemen led Gandhi to call off protests. So, because of the killings, then obviously Gandhi said that let's call off, maybe it will be in our favor. And other than that, people were being killed unnecessarily. Attacks on Muslims by Hindus raised the old fear of Hindu domination. The tragic failure of the Hijrat movement divided the demoralized many Muslims. In October 1923, with the backing of Britain, Turkey became a republic. In March 1924, the new Turkish government, led by Muslim President Kemal Ataturk, abolished the Khilafat. It was total defeat for the cause of Khilafat movement that they had tried to defend, which they wanted to save actually, and they wanted that it should stay. So now, based on this, we would be able to come to know and to understand, was the Khilafat movement a complete failure, or is it just like that people are assuming that it was a complete failure? Now, the end of the Khilafat in Turkey would seem to prove that the Khilafat movement was a failure and served no useful purpose. In fact, the Khilafat movement did a great deal to unite yes, Muslims, and to arouse their feelings for their faith and their people. In time, that led not just to demand for the British to leave India, but more importantly, to desire to have their own nation, that was Pakistan. So, once again, Muslims became aware that they could not trust either the British or the Hindus. So, they had to organize their own preservations, that they learned the importance of leadership and political organization, and it was a very important lesson for the political events of the following 20 years, which were going to come up and which led even to the independence of us being Muslims. So the Khilafat movement united Muslims against Britain in support of Caliph in Turkey. There was Hindu Muslim unity in support of Khilafat and non-cooperation movements. Non-cooperation led to non-violent protest all over India. Some protests became violent and Hindu Muslim riots occurred, and the Khilafat in Turkey was completely abolished. Hindu Muslim unity came to an end and Muslim convictions were strengthened. So, this was all about the basics about the Khilafat movement, which has led the stepping stones in development of a country and fighting for the independence.